When the smoke cleared and the dust settled of the DNS period of GTA Online, it was finally time for Rockstar to get started with GTA Online and start releasing some DLC in 2014. This all started with the release of the Valentine's Day Massacre Special. Some might argue that they weren't only referring to the actual Valentine's Day Massacre, but also to the state of their servers in the last 3 months. The update added some limited time items like the Roosevelt and the Gusenberg Sweeper, and also added 10 new jobs to the game so you could potentially stop playing criminal records all the time. The Roosevelt had a price tag of a whopping $750,000, which back then was a lot of money, especially coming from a time where everyone basically had their money wiped from the DNS times as well as the arguably very rough first few months of the game. Nowadays, I'm sure many advert GTA Online Twitter haters will still find this way too expensive and want everything for free. In the same update, Rockstar also got rid of Johnny on the Spot, the mechanic who would physically deliver your car, which didn't always really go so well. Yes, GTA Online used to have someone who would physically deliver your car. In the months preceding the Valentine's DLC, another 7 DLCs were added to the game, which added another 11 weapons, 29 vehicles, 55 new jobs, 3 new game modes, and also a flight school. The first DLC in line after the Valentine's DLC was the business update, and this added the heavy pistol, special carbine, the Alpha, Jester, Turismo R, and Vestra plane. The business update also added the option to turn off slipstream in races, which some might argue why was it not in the game from the very start. Before the next update came out, the High Level update, Rockstar actually let us know that they listened to feedback for once about players wanting to have non-contact races so they could race in peace instead of getting done up the ass without Vaseline or dinner first. The High Level update really was the first big DLC back in the day. Finally, people were able to buy a second garage to store more cars. And of course, this did mean that the quest for more garages back on old gen continued because people at that point had filled up their second garage pretty quick, and well, we were starting to beg for a third one. It also added the mental state feature, where a dot of a fellow player would get more and more red based on how hostile they were. Nowadays, you just have to look for the Oppressor Mark II icon on your map, or the screams of a mother telling Timmy to clean his room to know if you're going to die or not. The Hipster update came out in June of 2014. While no new features were added to the game, it is still regarded as one of the most fun updates because of how silly it was. I mean, the panto, the clothing, what's not to like really? Funny enough, it also added 2 new best-in-class vehicles with the Begali in the Sports Classics class and the Rhapsody in Compacts, and neither of them would be dethroned for quite some time. The Hipster update also added metal paint colors like pure gold, as well as the Dubsta 6x6, which both were only unlockable for those players who were rank 100, which back then was a pretty big deal considering that players who had put in the time to reach rank 100 or were putting in the time to get there were getting an additional reward, something that Rockstar has not done since then. Unfortunately. After the Hipster update, however, DLCs already were taking a turn for the worse. The content in them became less and less, and it also just became much less interesting. The updates themselves also became much less frequent, which in itself, in a game that were coming from quite a rough launch and with 2 updates that were quite good, was definitely a turn for the worse. The Independence DLC, similar to the Valentine's DLC, added some limited time vehicles and weapons. The update also added ground fireworks, a feature that was unfortunately only around during 2014 and 2015, never to be seen again. I really wonder why, because it was an old gen feature and surely PS4 and Xbox One were able to just simply handle that. The update also added the on-call feature, which allows you to just find a job through your phone and just keep playing in free roam while you wait. The ability to stick a sticky bomb to a pedestrian and another player's back was also added. Yes, this is a thing in the game in case you didn't know, and that is also the reason why I'm adding it in this video. The Flight School update was an interesting one. It didn't really add much else other than the Flight School, 3 new game modes, which were Acquired Target, G Rating, and Air Force Zero. Also, the ability to deploy a second parachute in mid-air was added too. At this point, it was August, and there wasn't really anything substantial added to the game since their Hipster update, which came out in June. October had arrived, and the GTA 5 remaster for PS4 and Xbox One was going to hit the shelves next month. The last Team Standing update, though, didn't really add anything other than a bulletproof helmet, which shouldn't have been in the game to begin with. It made, and still doesn't, no sense to add a clothing item that takes 4 extra headshots to down someone in a game where one of the core mechanics is a one-shot headshot. Sadly, these types of helmets have only become worse over the years. The 2014 Festive surprise completely ruined GTA races by adding proximity mines, completely ruined using a helicopter in free roam by adding the homing rocket launcher, the red truck which barely drives, the slam van which barely brakes, and the Massacro and Jester race cars, both very cool cars and still my favorites until this day. As well as the option to finally buy a third property and expand your car collection even further. Also, a cool feature added was a dead zone and acceleration slider that was added to the control settings because, nothing like aim acceleration in your shooting video game. But it simply wasn't enough. There was another gap between October and December until we got this DLC. Sure, granted, in November we got a new version of the game, but it really didn't add all that much to the game other than potentially just a few new cars and a few new jobs. It was meant to be the great turnaround for GTA 5 because a new version with new abilities and new things, but the next DLC we got was the Festive Surprise, which was just another DLC. Players were really just leaving at a rapid pace, and for the right reasons too. We sat there for months and months on end and hoping that maybe, just maybe, we'll hear more about the Heist DLC that was promised to us from the very start. It was in the original trailer, but it was nowhere to be seen, and it wasn't released until March of 2015, a whopping 1.5 years after the original release of GTA Online. You cannot possibly keep dangling Heist over people's heads, hoping that they'll stick around the game for 1.5 years, hoping for the better. And instead, all we got was DLCs that just became less and less of content as the months went on. DLCs became less frequent, and we were just kind of left in the dark with what exactly was going on behind the scenes with GTA Online. Unfortunately, in that department, nothing has changed in 2022. Internally, Rockstar knew that the game was losing players at a rapid pace, and people grew bored and impatient of the game, which in the summer of 2014 reached the point of almost being unplayable. I still have vivid memories of how terrible the performance was on Xbox 360. The constant freezes that kept happening with no fix in sight. It became a normality that your game would just freeze every hour or two. The performance issues in GTA Online honestly really put me off playing, even prompting me to make a video in September of 2014, basically announcing to my then YouTube audience, telling everyone I'm quite done with playing this, the performance issues are just getting to me and there really isn't all that much interesting in the game. Yes, this is 2014 Gtamen, the ultra fanboy who was like, just shut up if you don't like the game. It was especially difficult because the PS4 and Xbox One were out in 2013, a couple of weeks even after GTA 5 originally launched. They were out in the wild and everyone was looking how the grass was greener on the other side. Other games were looking nicer, played better, and overall just had a lot more to offer than GTA Online did at that point. So people just simply hopped to the next thing and just maybe would return sometime later. Add the fact that the only way to make money in the game back then was contact missions, with double money not really being a thing that existed until the release of the Ill-Gotten Gains Part 2 in July of 2015. The first year of GTA Online in many ways is like Red Dead Online right now. You're just kind of stuck with the content that the game had to offer since the very start, with some sprinkles of DLCs thrown in to shut you up. Which is one of the reasons why it boggles my mind that Rockstar had launched Red Dead Online in the state that it had, with even less content than GTA Online did when it launched. It sadly shows that they have learned very little, if not nothing at all. While from a content point of view, GTA Online it launched with plenty of maps and modes to play, there just wasn't really anything for people to really get interested into the game. And I want to make the point that one of the saving graces of GTA Online has been, and always will be, the content creator. People being able to make their own game modes and races, in my opinion, has kept me playing the game till this day. If it wasn't for the content creator, this game would have been dead. Which is one of the reasons why I really wonder why Rockstar has never added a content creator in Red Dead Online, because I know there's a bunch of passionate folks in that community who would love to make something like that, and PvP might actually become a lot more interesting. You have to keep in mind that everyone's first impression of GTA Online was the disastrous launch, then the DNS stuff that went on for like 2 months, and then when the DLCs finally started dropping, it became increasingly difficult to play the game due to the performance issues and the decline of interesting DLCs. To Rockstar's credit, however, they were the first, if not one of the first, AAA developer to release DLCs that were completely free and funded with optional microtransactions payments in a time where you still had to cough up $15 in order to play your 4 new Call of Duty maps. Rockstar in a way showed the rest of the industry that it was possible to make money this way. Personally, I prefer this way than having to cough up $15 for a DLC that not everyone wants or is able to get. A free to participate, welcome to contribute model is clearly working out for the better for the industry as a whole as well. Thanks to those who like to buy a color for their gun from time to time. But that was the first year of GTA Online with some opinions mixed in. Of course, that means that I'd love to know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you have fond memories of the first year, or were you one of those people that kind of quit relatively quickly due to how unstable the game was and how uninteresting the DLCs were? Let me know in those comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe for more, and check out the other episodes inside of the History of GTA Online series that I've been doing over the last few months. And if you really like what you see on our channel, please do consider becoming a member like Chloe, Robert, Madman Dakota, Shapeshift Gaming, and Captain Price. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all later.